My name is John Jennings. I'm a student in the College of Zen Buddhist Studies of the Five Mountain Zen Order, working towards becoming a Zen monk. Today I'm going to give a lecture on three disciples of Ma-tsu in the Hongqiao school of Chan, Chinese Zen. Before I get started, I'd like to point out this screen behind me. It's in my dining room, and it's from China. It's a window screen. It comes from the area of Three Gorges, where the dam was built, and ancient temples and housing had to be destroyed to build the dam to flood the gorges. Excuse me for sniffing. So this is, I'd just like to point out a few things because there's Buddhist symbols in this screen. There is a lotus down here. Up over here, there's a little incense bowl, and carved into the wood is smoke, incense smoke. And this is an interesting thing. All throughout here, we find the swastika. The swastika that was co-opted by the Nazis, and there's also a fellow on the web that's trying to reestablish the swastika as a Buddhist symbol, which it originally was. Excuse me. So, I'm going to be covering three of Ma-tsu's students. One of them is Fa-chang. The other one is Wu Ye, and then Yin Feng. Fa-chang is an interesting fellow. He was living in the forests. What I get from his brand of Zen is that he says mind is Buddha, and he proposes that Zen or Chan is just an ordinary life. He compares himself to dry wood in the forest that even a wood chopper wouldn't even notice, wouldn't even bother with. So throughout his teachings, he keeps stressing this ordinary life. He talks about not following the apparent. Mind functions without good or evil. He says, what is the meaning of the Buddha Dharma? He says, rush flowers and reeds. Even as he's dying, he points out the flying squirrel. That's it. That's it. Nothing more. Nothing more to say. That's it. Even with layman Pang comes to him and he starts asking him, is the fruit ripe? Is the plum ripe? And he says to layman Pang, where would you like to bite it? How would you like to bite it? And layman Pang becomes confused, and he says, just bring me the kernel. Just bring me the kernel. So it's very, for him, it's a very simplified life. It's seeing the beauty in everyday things, and not commenting. Not that, like he says, Do not follow the apparent. Mind functions without good and evil. So it's beyond good and evil. It's beyond labels. It's just recognizing things as they are in their beauty. So we move on to Wu Ye. Now, Wu Ye, Wu Ye talks about thinking and what you're doing with your mind. He says there's nothing to be obtained, so don't indulge in false thinking. There's nothing to ponder. Um, there are things to be observed, but there's nothing to ponder. If all thinking is not gone, then one is certain to fail. So it's not about the mind going and going and going. It's about the mind settling down. And he also says, don't get engrossed in the studying of words. Don't intellectualize, just be. And in many ways, this is very similar to Fa Chung, that stripping things down, looking at, looking at the flying squirrel. It's not about thinking. It's beyond that. So that's Wu Ye, and so it's very, very similar to Chung, but a little more emphasis on not intellectualizing and not studying. It's not intellectual. There's nothing there's nothing to ponder. It's empty. It's mine, but there's nothing to be obtained. Don't indulge in false thinking. Leave off the thinking. Now, this last one, Yin Fang, I have to admit that I'm not really sure that I get it, but I think that I do. And I think it's about not saying anything. So it's very similar to the other, especially to Wu Ye, who, no thinking, no pondering, no intellectualizing. Well, Yin Fang, not speaking, it seems to me, not adding things on. He's asked to that there is a pitcher and that's an object, and there's water, and without moving the object, bring me the water, and he takes the pitcher and pours the water on the floor. But I think that has to do with just not saying anything, not adding anything to it. Is my take on this, and I'm not sure that I'm right, but that's what I get from this. And he also, there's another story where the master arrives at Kuei Shan. He puts his robe and his bowl on the head monk's seat, and then he hears that his younger brother has arrived, and then is my younger brother gone? And he says, did he say anything? And the monk says, no, he didn't say anything. And he said, what do you mean? He was roaring like thunder, but he was quiet. So it was his actions that spoke out, not words, is what I get from this. And then there's this business of his standing on his head and dying, and his sister scolds him. Nobody can move him. Sister scolds him and then pushes his body over, and then he's cremated. Um, I'm not sure I understand that. I think it's probably, again, about no words, no words. That's what I get from this. So, to sum up, we looked at Fa Chang, uh, who simplifies things down and doesn't add anything on top of it. You know, the flying squirrel, the dry wood in the forest, the plum, just bring me the kernel, just bring me the seed. Um, Simplify it, simplify it. What's the meaning of the Buddha Dharma? Rushes and reads. It's ordinary life without adding anything to it. And then Wu Ye. Wu Ye talks about not indulging in false thinking. There's nothing to be attained, nothing to ponder, no studying. If the thinking isn't gone, then you're certain to fail. So Fa Chang is don't add anything to it. Wu Ye is stop the intellectualizing, and Yin Fang is basically silence to show the simplicity of it all, is what I get. So these are the three monks that I have covered, and I'll put some questions into the forum, and a way to find this if I can figure this out. It's been weeks of trying to figure this out, but I think I've got it, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much for listening to me.